At the Extraordinary Podcast, we've been blessed to have some pretty amazing guests. We've had a few authors with new books and amazing stories to tell. But DC Gomez is a different breed. Yes, she's an accomplished author, writing everything from novels to children's books to devotionals. But it's her infectious energy that makes her stand out. After our conversation, Hurricane Gomez seemed like a more fitting title. Now she hosts a podcast and a Facebook Live feed every week where you can feel that energy firsthand. DC brought that energy to our interview, and I noticed it immediately. It was so uplifting. I even found myself smiling when I listened back to edit. She grew up in the Dominican Republic and immigrated to the United States with her family as a teen. Going from a tropical paradise to Salem, Massachusetts was a shock in many ways. But it gave her this perspective on life that's so refreshing. Learning all about service from her family, DC has found the answers to a happy life that so many of us are seeking. And it's obvious when you hear her speak. And her morning habit of being fearless at 5 a.m. has had some pretty impressive results as well. This Amazon influencer is pumping out literature and providing service through groups like the Rotary Foundation. Hear how she does it all and pulls in others along the way in my incredible conversation with DC Gomez.
This episode is brought to you by Atlantic Custom Group. Atlantic Custom Group specializes in the unique and inspiring. For all your home repair and improvement needs, from custom libraries and millwork to tree houses and off-grid structures, Atlantic Custom Group can do it all. Renovate your kitchen, remodel your basement, or reinvent your entire home with Atlantic Custom Group. Call now for an appointment. 770-827-7591. Atlantic Custom Group, official sponsor of the Extraordinary Podcast.
This is the Extraordinary Podcast, and my guest today is DC Gomez.
Hi, darling. How are you?
How's it going?
It's fabulous. I'm so excited to be here with you.
It's been, like we were just saying before, it's been a comedy of errors getting us to this point on my behalf, but I'm so glad to be with you and to have some time to get to spend with you today. So really excited about this conversation. We got a ton of stuff to talk about. So tell me what's going on with you.
I am so thrilled to be here with you. And it's just so much fun going on. And I want to use the word fun because if you use anything else, sounds stressful. So I'm in the middle of releasing a new book. I'm doing podcasts. Getting ready to try to launch my business again in coaching. So life is just full of stuff. So it's always fun. So I'm here because I love your podcast. I love your guests and I love the format. So I'm like, I need to be part of this. So this is why I'm here because I needed to be part of your world.
Well, and I love that your fun is part of world domination, taking over the world, like we were talking about before. It's been a reoccurring theme for you.
I have to have a disclaimer. So I made a joke in one of my books. So one of my characters, Constantine, who is a 5-dozen-year-old talking cat. And typical cat, he's a little dictator evil. And the joke is he has more money than God. And Constantine's all about world domination. So that has become something that people say. And every once in a while, I have to be careful because I'll type it out. It's like, so my world domination plan today, we're not going to die. And they're like, world domination? Is that where we're going? I'm like, yes, this is what we're doing. Just join the fun. Come on, join me and it will be okay. And my readers just have gone crazy with it. And our joke is always like, you need some Constantine in your life. It will be okay. Just enjoy the ride. It will be fun.
Well, it's so true. Don't we all need a little more Constantine in our life? And to have such a lofty goal and ambition, it then dictates the amount of energy that you put forth into everything that you're doing. And that energy just comes out in everything that you have going on. And it's very, it's compelling, but it's also contagious. Like it's very, makes me want to jump in.
I'm all about trying to bring joy to the world. And I tell everybody, my goal is I want you to leave better after hanging out with me than when you were here. So I want to bring you some joy. I want to bring you some life. I want to spark some creativity into you just because I have been blessed with so many people in my life. That's just made my life spark. So if I can share that with other people, it's amazing. And then if you get me talking about the stuff that I like, oh yeah, it's on. We're going to have some fun.
I know we got to be careful not to get too deep into these books because we could get lost real fast. So you said there were some people that had a pretty big impact on your life that kind of helped get you to this point. Tell me about that. Tell me about some of the people who had an impact on you.
I always tell people I am here because I'm standing in the shoulders of others. My parents are the first ones who have made sacrifices. I'm an immigrant, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So
Well, if you can't tell by the accent, Dominican Republic, go ahead and put that out there.
Let's be honest, full-blooded Dominican, got to the States when she was 10, did not speak English. So let's just add some question marks, like what were my parents thinking? Moved to Massachusetts, right? So I had the Salem, Boston switch going on. Then went to school at NYU, so added some New York, and then I joined the Army, and I was like, oh my God, I'm just confusing people. But my parents, they made sacrifices that as an adult, you can appreciate it. As a child, you're like, that is insane. Why would you ever do that? But I'm standing here because, my dad, and I kind of tell people, did not go to college so he can come to the States to support a family. And the man is brilliant. So when I'm looking at inspiration, I look at my family, I look at my parents, I'm looking at some of my friends who have done incredible things just for being themselves. So anytime you have people pouring into you, I have now as a business owner, because of this business, I talk to, one of my good friends is my hairdresser who owns her own business. And every time I talk to her, I'm like, I just need to go conquer the world because I don't even know how you do all of this. So you have people that come into your life who are amazing angels. And sometimes we take them for granted because they don't have the title, because they don't have that huge background that you think. And when I tell about people, my dad is a high school graduate, got his GED. He came to the States. He worked all these factories. He did all this stuff.
And probably one of the smartest people
every day. He is that person that you go down the streets in Salem. Hopefully you don't have any place to go important because you're going to be late. The joke with my brothers is you're going to be late because my dad looks like he's running for mayor. Like he waves at people and you're going, do we know them? Don't know them, don't care. He sees somebody on the streets. He's going to talk to them. I want to be that person. Like I want to be that person that you see them and there's the same person every day. You are not having this multiple personalities. I think you're too big because I know if I went home, my dad's going to tell me about myself. So I'm like, you better be humble because you got parents that are going to be like, and you're doing that. Why? So yeah.
What a blessing to have parents like that. I'm in the exact same boat. Like my parents can't go anywhere without talking to a stranger. And my parents are all into the triathlon and the health and fitness and all that kind of stuff. So I can't tell you how many people they have dragged into that sport. They're now have been cursed with this, thing of getting into triathlon because of my parents. And they look for it. They look for any opportunity to share that. And that's such a cool way to grow up. And I think it has a pretty big impact on us as their kids.
You have a way of looking at the world and saying what's important, what's not important, and then being able to give it back. My parents were the ones who instilled service into me. One of my dad's biggest role model that happens to be mine is one of our former presidents, Juan Bush, who passed away. He is technically known in Latin America as the professor. He's been involved in more constitutions in Latin America than anybody else. He has an impact than anybody else. And he had this one saying that as a child tends to kind of shock you. He goes, if you're not serving, you don't deserve to live. And I'm like, oh my God, at 14, somebody tells you that, you're like, what is that? Am I serving? I would like to live. Do I need to serve some more? So it had that impact. And to this day, my parents are late 60s, 70s, and they're volunteering. I come home and people are like, you're going to volunteer? You have all these things going on. I'm like, you don't understand where I come from. You don't understand that my parents are still involved in their community and believe in the goodness of people and believe that if people work together can make a difference. So yes, I'm going to volunteer. I'm the goofy kid that volunteers at our local museums. And I sit there like every other Friday and just answer the phones. And people's like, I can't believe you're doing this. It's like, this is really complicated. I don't know if I can handle this chair and this phone, but I got this. And
that's amazing. That's amazing. That's so cool because that's such a rare thing these days. And for me, like the way that I get that is through my church. Like I'm LDS, and one of a huge aspect of our faith is that you are expected to serve, whether it be in a calling in the church, whether you're teaching in a class or just going to go bid, like everybody's got assigned 2 families that you just go check on them. Hey, like, what do you need? How can I help? You need your grass. As for us guys, like, you need me to chop down a tree, kind of mow your grass, whatever it is. And then we're like, if somebody's moving, like that's a common joke in our faith or in our churches, like the LDS mover service, because we're always moving somebody in or moving somebody out. And it's just such a great opportunity to serve. And when you do that, I don't think people realize that well, at least for me, like it's really a selfish endeavor because you're so fulfilled when you serve others, and nobody realizes that who doesn't serve. Like you don't realize the joy and the fulfillment that you get from helping somebody else.
Just think about it. If you're having a bad day, go help somebody else and your day disappears. And nobody actually sees this. And I have a hard time explaining it because nobody gets it. It's like, I'm suffering, I'm going through this, and you want me to do what? You want me to get out and help somebody? I was like, no, you want your problems to go away, whether you believe in the Lord or not. And that's a personal choice, and that's okay. But do something for somebody else.
Yeah. And you don't have to believe in God to go serve somebody.
No.
You don't have to believe it. You don't have to be a member of a church to, work at a soup kitchen or just to be of good use to someone.
It is a beautiful thing to do. And the joy that you see in people's eyes just by you being there.
So rewarding.
Somebody that cares outside of their bubble is just life-changing. So to me, anytime I can help, I'm like, sure, I can do this. We got this.
Well, I've told this story on more than one occasion. I've got a buddy that created a charity called Hope Through Soap. And it started as a mobile shower unit to give homeless guys showers and haircuts and all that kind of stuff. And when I first found out and linked up with them, I really was excited to go down there. And coming again from that community and that faith of service, I got down there. I was like, okay, what do you need me to clean? What do you need me to cook? What do you need me to do? This and that. And he's like, you don't need you to do anything. It's like, you can just be here and just hang out or whatever. And it was the first time I realized, like, it's all about just like being present. And just be like the people that we were serving, they didn't need me to flip a burger for them. They just needed somebody to hang out with and to feel real and to feel connected. And so I started going down there just to eat lunch and just to hang out. It was so weird, but it was like that became a very fulfilling, rewarding thing for both them and me. And it was just like, just by showing up, you don't have to actually do anything.
You acknowledging people's existence by being there and by acknowledging them and by looking them in the eye and telling them, you're human and I love you just because you are.
It's an incredibly rewarding. Matter of fact, I just texted them because, when COVID hit, it totally screwed everything up for them and that whole process. And I've been texting them and I haven't been back down there in like literally over a year. So I just texted them yesterday because see where they're going to be tomorrow because it's a Saturday thing. So I'm hoping I can get down there and hang out with them again. But that's a great segue into, you do have a faith element to what you do. And like we're going to get into all your books, but before we get into your fiction, I want to talk a little bit about these devotionals. Like you have your third devotional coming out. So first tell me about what that is. And then I want to go behind the scenes a little bit about how you got into all that.
I have a collection. It's called the Dare Collection. And the first one is the Dare Collection.
Dare Collection.
Dare to believe, dare to forgive, and dare to love. So Dare to Love is the last one coming out. And this is one of those collections that is very personal. And I write all sorts of stuff. You're talking about urban fantasy. I can do children's. I'm doing women's led. This is the books that went home. Like this is the stuff that I had to
kind of hit home for you.
These are the ones, if I'm going to motivate you to be who you truly are and to actually embrace your life, then I had to lay it all out there. I have, and it's a 28 devotional. They're all 28 days. Each week has a theme. And it's basically to help you heal. And I'm a believer that I need to see it. I need to write it. I need to do it to make it real. And I put a piece of my soul. Like there's one of the chapters that I'm talking about, what is love? And like, I was never a jealous person until I fell in love for the first time. And that's one of the segments that I talked about. It's like, until I fell in love, then I was jealous. I wanted attention. I wanted this person to actually pay attention to me. I was bragging about myself. I was doing all these unhealthy things. And then I thought it was because, I was jealous and immature. And the reality wasn't because I was insecure enough. I didn't know how to love. I didn't know how to love unconditionally. I didn't know how to be patient. I didn't know how to be kind. I didn't know all these things. Because if you think about it, in our society, unconditional love has not been modeled. So when I decided to put this collection, and I started last year, I joke because it's kind of funny. I was in the middle of writing my second women's led. It's the Cat Lady Special. I have a series dealing with a depressed cat lady terms arms dealer. So you can possibly imagine that urban fantasy girl dealing with the apocalypse. I have demons and witches, and I'm writing about women selling guns. And then I'm going to write a devotion.
And I hear some spiritual stuff. A little yin to your yang, if you will.
Oh, there's a whole bunch of that. I was doing a Facebook Live series that is still going on, and it's Chit Chat with DC. And the goal was to help people be inspired. I wanted people to live their best life now. I wanted to give you practical tools and ideas. And if you have never had a conversation with God or yourself in your mind, these are scary conversations. I don't care what anybody says. And the conversation, you want to know how this came about? Let me give you the breakdown. Scary as hell. Because I have this idea that says, oh, I should do a companion book for the chit chats. That would be great. So people can take it one step farther. Mental note, sounds like a good idea. Check. It's like, you should do a devotional. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Once again, not paying that much attention to it. And the conversations say it, that would be a great Christmas present. By the way, this is June timeframe. And I can tell you the voice of God, whether you believe it or not, literally says like, oh, so I got to wait 6 months for this book? You can do a book in 3 months and I got to wait 6 months. Like, ooh, okay, that's kind of low. I know. So
where's my priorities, right?
And it hit home and I was like, oh, ouch, that's kind of low. No problem. So then I had a moment where I seriously like, I could do that. Okay. Then the question comes back. Do I want to be a Christian author? That was the real question. Do I want that label? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And I've been debating this because my Horseman books are very Christian based. It has a whole bunch of that undertone to it. And I had that conversation. I was like, and once again, he comes back, like, oh, so you're going to deny me in public? Because you know I'm going to deny you to my father. And it was like, oh, shit, really? I would go in there. And I seriously, I know. I had that moment. And every time I tell my friends, they're like, your mind works in the most bizarre way. I was like, yes, but it hurt.
It makes perfect sense to me for what it's worth.
It did. It was that moment that I said, am I technically denying you? It's like, you can't do a devotional because it's Christian? I was like, but I have friends who are not Christians. How would they feel like? And I seriously I'm having this debate for 2 weeks of my life of like, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? What does that mean? And finally, I was like, you know what? Fine. You won. You're right. I'm a believer. Put whatever label you want. I'm a spiritual being that believes in Jesus. That's kind of how I feel. You know, put whatever denomination you want. I'm a spiritual creature. I believe that. And I love the scriptures.
I like that. Spiritual creature. I like that.
I am. I'm a spiritual creature.
Me too.
Religion goes whichever faith you feel like it. Whatever you feel comfortable. I have studied them all. I love them all. Some of them have more cohesion than others. But I'm a spiritual being. That's what it is. I can connect with the scripture for an amazing of what it is. I can relate for it. And I had to swallow some pride because my ego was talking. I was like, oh, now we got a label. God, do you want that one? And I had to take a step of faith. And I was like, what are people going to say? Because, you know, the criticism, that fear of criticism. The girl who writes urban fantasy thinks she's good enough to do a devotion. I was like, no, I don't. I don't think I'm good enough. But I think I can make you feel better because I've been there. So I let the hurt, I let the broken, I let the person who's been through those pass. Because some people, God can tap you on your shoulder and you will repent and change your life. It takes an ass whipping for this one. Like he would drag me to the coals.
I always say he's got to hit me on the head with a 2x4 for me to get the point.
Every day. He'll be dragging me through the coals. Like, are you ready there? It's like, no. I think I can do it my way. It's like, okay, we're just going to keep dragging you. Are you there? No.
Some people say it's that still small voice. Sometimes it's a yelling, screaming from
I don't
blaring siren for me.
So some people, like, you know, in the scriptures, you have everybody like God talks in a whisper. I need the burning bush. A couple of them. Make it a forest. I need the blinking lights everywhere because I'm like, Jesus, I'm not getting this.
And even still that I struggle.
No. So it became that moment of like, am I going to do them? I didn't realize what an amazing reception was going to have, which was very scary because my readers are not used to this. My readers are not used to me doing devotionals.
So was it your existing audience that you noticed that took a liking to it, or was it a new audience that you noticed that took a liking to it the most?
A little bit of both. I am unfortunately the writer that confuses the hell out of readers because most writers have one pen name per genre. So if you're going to do fantasy, this is it. If you're going to do children's, this is it. I will do it all. So if you see me at an event, I can see my readers having like multiple like flashbacks because they're like, wait, is there other people with you? It's like, no, it's just me. They're like,
well, so let me ask you this. So with your real name being Syl and not DC Gomez, was there ever, because, you know, like, I love the fact that like you feel like kind of God calling you out a little bit and saying, okay, well, like you, Syl, like, what do you stand with some of that? Like, where, you know, are you going to stand up or whatever? Was there ever a thought about using your real name for that stuff and then keeping the DC Gomez for the fiction stuff? Or what were your thoughts behind that?
That would be cheating. Let's be honest, that would be cheating.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So it would be taking away if you chose to use silt, then it would kind of be taking away from it and not giving its full glory,
Mhm.
for lack of a better term.
It was one of those moments that I had to sacrifice and I had to take a step of faith. And if I'm going to take a step of faith, it needs to be the whole picture.
I
It's
like that.
going to it's going to be a step of faith with the same pen name, the same girl that can write you some badass shit blowing up and some demented girl selling some guns. You need to see the raw side of her telling you that you can believe in God and do it all. It has to be it all. It can't be one piece or the other. So the devotionals were, and there still are, that moment where you're going, I'm laying it all out there. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's like exposing the underbelly, if you will, like really kind of
You're doing
fiction.
it
You
all.
can kind of have a front, it's all, fake, it's all whatever you want it to be. Devotional takes a whole different look.
You nailed it, because I tell everybody, it's like, I don't have a talking cat that can save me. There is no Constantine that's going to come and have my back and say some smart crap to have you smiling. There is none of that. It's just me and you, and we're going on a 4-week journey. And are you willing to do it? And are you willing to take this step of faith? And do you trust me enough to let me in your house? Because when you're thinking about it, when you're writing a book, you're taking me home. You're letting my words in your house. It's as intimate relationship as you can get. Probably podcasting is more intimate because I'm in your ears, but it's still the same. It is an intimate relationship that very hard to break. And you're trusting me not to disappoint you. You're trusting me to lead you down a path that you believe, and you're giving me faith enough to say, I know what you're talking about. So this is raw. This is laying it all there. And it's fun with my editors because they're like, I needed this. I'm like, that's great, but was it good? Like, can we get back to you editing the book? Like, so it's so much fun. It was surprising.
No, but
I
that's
had,
rewarding to hear an editor say that, though. I mean, if you got an editor
yes,
saying that to you, I mean, dude, to me, that's like, well, you're on the right track. If an editor who's just paid to read crap for a living and break it down is giving you that kind of feedback, wow.
it is fun. I have a really small but mighty community of people that are in my circle, and I love them to death. They have been with me from the beginning. So it is
Those
always
true
fun.
fans, if you will.
Yes. And it's interesting because I don't have a genre. I haven't had one. So now it has become a brand. Are you going to love DC? Do you like quirky characters? Do you like some actions? I don't have a lot of sex. I don't have, take it back. I have some steam. Like my new work's coming out has some steam, and everybody's like, whoa, how do we got there? It's like, I don't know. That just happens.
Is
But
that
I
more in
don't
the
have,
women's lit stuff? The stuff with the crazy cat lady? Is that where
no,
you find that, or that's more in the intern diary stuff?
it's coming out in the new works that I have. I have a couple of series coming out, off spins of the intern diaries, and it
Okay.
starts out, and I kind of joke about it because it's not me. Like, I think every writer is a tunnel for the works. So this one starts with Eric, who happens to be a side character. He's in the shower, taking a shower, naked, steaming water running down, and he's talking to himself, and there's blood everywhere. And it was like, I want to marry Eric. I was like, okay, that's not what I write, but that's what the characters wanted. So that's what you put on the page, and you keep it as authentic as they wanted to be and as precious as they wanted. But then we went steam. I was like, I have some hot scenes, and I'm like, for the girl that has never done a sex scene in any of her books, like everybody's like, he's hot. And I'm like,
I would find
thanks.
that the most challenging to write, for what it's worth. I would feel incredibly uncomfortable trying to write that stuff out. I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy reading it, but to try to be on the other side, trying to put that together, that would be tough.
Well, I can tell you right now that DC is now going to get you some hot and sexy sex scenes, for the simple fact that I have a Charlie's collection, and I can't have Charlie in the same universe. Like, there's
Well,
too much.
for what it's worth, neither is Nate G over here.
Yeah, I might hint that some stuff happened. You can fill in the blanks. You're not going to get it from me.
Yeah.
I did some research how to do some erotica, and the more research I did, the more like I blush, then the more like, yeah, I can't write that. I'm sorry.
That's just not my wheelhouse right now. Well, and so yeah, you mentioned the kid series, but before we talk about that, you were talking about some of this stuff, like a lot of your own persona comes out in your writing, and I'm going to call you the crazy cat lady just for lack of a better word. So you've got this book about this crazy cat lady who's slinging guns. Tell me about, like, how did that come to be? How autobiographical is that? And then, like, what's going on with all that women's lit stuff, man?
So you can laugh. I got invited to a women's con, right? And I didn't realize it was a romance convention. No clue.
Like
I
a
told you.
romance novel convention kind of thing?
Yes. Most of the books there were all romance.
Who knew?
And neither did I. I told you I'm a press the button kind of girl. Hey, you want to join? Press the button. We
Cool.
will ask
Women's
questions
conference.
later.
I'm in.
It
Click.
didn't say that. It just had a really cool title. I didn't read
It wasn't even that much.
did not read the bottom fine print. Didn't realize
No
it was
small
genre
print.
specific. No, I showed up. We got some beautiful booths. People have frills and there's lights and there's all these pink stuff everywhere. And here I have that's intern, like a whole bunch of apocalypse and a children's book. And then literally the poor ladies will walk by and look at me and they just keep walking. All their husbands will stop and be like, you don't have romance. I was like, do I stand out that much? He's like, yes, you do. So on my way back, because it was at Lake Charles, I'm driving back to Texarkana, which is like 6 hours from me at the time. I'm driving back and I was like, I need a romance book. I can't be the only person there without a romance book. And this insane idea showed up, which after I wrote it, it was like, that's not romance. I'm like, whatever, it's as close as I'm going to get. Be nice.
It was a good first attempt though, right? Well, from a guy's perspective, it sounds a hell of a lot more compelling for what it's worth. The crazy cat lady that's selling guns and whatnot, that sounds pretty cool.
I can tell you, so I have one of my good friends happens to be a psychiatrist. So we have a joke. She's like, so you started the book out of suicide? I was like, she was contemplating. Her life was shit. What do you do when you have nothing to lose? Everything is gone. She's in her 40s.
That's how you introduced the series.
Yes, this is how the first scene of you're walking into her living room and she's sitting in her living room contemplating, do I use a gun? Do I use a pill? There's nothing. She's a very Southern lady. She doesn't want to lose her reputation. She's about to lose the house. The husband leaves her for a younger woman. Put all these little things in there. And she's like, what do I do? And then she's debating, like, I should kill myself in the bathroom so mom doesn't have to clean the living room. It doesn't drop the value of the property. All the crazy things you have in your mind going, she left school, she married young, all these weird things. You ask how much of me is in here. Let me put it this way. If I hadn't written Constantine prior to, there's no way I could have written Angela. Like, Angela is raw and she is deep and she is going through some shit that you're going, oh my God. And introducing Angela to my readers was a little scary. A lot of my ladies and a lot of the guys who read it were like, okay, this is where we're going. My editor sent me a note that's like, this is different than your normal. I was like, yeah. She's like, it's raw. It is definitely raw. It is that inside of a mind of a woman who's just like, I have nothing to lose. And here's her life is, she would never do anything to save herself. She's just going through the notions, she's in her house. And finally, her mom is texting because she lives in an elderly community. He's like, hey, come to lunch. She's like, then one day I finally have a plan. Everybody wants to see me. So she has a knock on the door and these two boys come in, they live down the street. And by the way, small Texas town that I had to make up because it was tiny. I needed a tiny place. And they asked, like, hey, Miss Angela, mom wants to know if you want some tamales. I have an obsession with tamales, even though I don't make them. And she really just thought about it. She opened the door. She's oblivious, hot mess, still wearing pajamas. And she has a 45 in her hand. And she kind of blows them off. She's like, I'm going to kill myself. Who cares? The boys walk away and they're going, I can't have a BB gun, but crazy cat lady has a 45. And she goes, what will you give me for it? And they got all offended. It's like, oh God, you want some freaky shit. I got to go. And she's just like, she closes the door. She's like, I just wanted somebody to cut the grass. Like, that's all, her life is
45
that.
for a mo.
That's pretty much it. That was her whole thing. I was like, oh. So she continues. And that evening they come back with one of their friends, little suspicious characters. Like, what would you give me? So you find out that, she's like, I can't make things. I can't make drugs. I can't grow weed, but I know some guns. Let's do this. And she has nothing to lose. So she gets picked up, her mom and her friends become the silver hair gang because they join her group. They're like, oh God. So you go on this wild ride of this crazy family that she didn't have to figure it out that she's not going to do nothing to save herself, but you fuck with her family. And I just cursed. I apologize. But yeah, you mess with her family. She's going to take you out. And it's that journey of figuring it out. Like, Second Life. I have one of the scenes that all of my girls have sent me a note and they said, I love Isis and the interns, but Angela made me cry. And I was like, oh. And she has a scene where she's in the kitchen and she thinks her life is going great. It's like that moment you think all is good. And she opens the paper and she sees the announcement that her ex is going to get married again. And she loses it, like rips the paper. She's in the ground and she's going ballistic. And most of my girls like, yeah, I relate to that scene. I was like, We all have those moments. You have those moments when you lose it over the dumbest shit, and you're like, what just happened? And that's raw. And I've been through a divorce, been there, done that. And it's that moment that regardless who decides that they need a divorce, who signs the papers, how it started, how it ends, it's still going to hurt. It's still going to hit home. It's still going to rip you through pieces. And what comes out of it is usually what you're hoping is a better version of you. I tell everybody, it's like, I was dumb and stupid. I was dumb as hell. I thought I knew. Like at 27, you think you're smart. You think you know shit. When you're in your 40s, you're like, oh my God, I was an idiot. Like, I feel like I should send my ex apology letters now. I was like, I'm so sorry, babe. My bad. That was bad. But it's those things that you learn. But yes, I had to write a fantasy book before I can get real with my readers and give you some Angela. And as you can tell, the progression, the more I open, then we can get to devotionals and be like, okay, we're just going to lay it all there. This is it, God. I hope you have a plan.
Yeah, right. Well, just like there's a lot of you in Angela, but there's also, again, that whole yin and yang. There's a lot of you in the Constantine character as well with the cat. Like you have that dynamic, that balance, like of in your own subconscious. It's kind of like the devil on the shoulder and the angel on the shoulder. That's kind of always having that ongoing battle. And for you, I think those two characters kind of played that dynamic. Would that be a fair assumption?
When you put it that way, it is, because Constantine says what he wants, and that's what he wants, and runs the world the way he sees it. He doesn't apologize. Angela's going to apologize for everything.
Because he's like, he has a point though, right? Like, I mean, it's like whole inverse of the insecurity and the lack of confidence that Angela has.
He has seen it all, done it all, and doesn't care. Angela,
and that whole cat mentality of like, I'm walking around with my butt in the air, like my tail just a wagging, doing that whole. Oh,
he don't care. It's like, you can see me if you don't. You can take me as it is, or you don't. I don't care. I'm still going to rule the world. Typical cat.
Yeah.
So my cat's Constantine is the version of my cat and my mother, and I tell everybody, don't tell my mother that, because she is fierce and fearless, and you're just like, oh God, if you could rule the universe, I think we'd be all screwed, because you would totally take over, like the two.
Be a tyrant.
The whole way.
But it takes a tyrant to run a household like that sometimes. Like you were talking about, like your dad was, coming to the States before you guys got here, having to work everything. So she was having to run the show, what'd you say, 2 or 3 boys? 3 boys? I have
two younger brothers.
2 boys, and you, which is, I can imagine you were a handful back in the day, I mean, God bless her to survive that. You got to be a bit of a tyrant, I would think.
I can say that now as an adult, because I was like, as a child, I tell everybody I was terrified of my mother. And my friends were like, you were good because of your mother, because she would have killed you. Like, there was no ways about it. But I didn't realize how hard it is to raise 3 independent kids, that you want them to be independent. You want them to have a mind of their own. But we're intense and we're too much. And the brothers and I together are way too much. And my mother now goes like, do you guys have an off button? Like, how do we quiet? Like, shut up. Like, you guys be
one
quiet
of many different kinds of hurricanes coming through there.
That's us. Hurricane Gomez in the house. And she's like, oh my
Hurricane
God. Oh my
Gomez,
God.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's great. Oh, man. Well, let me ask you this. So when did you figure out that this was the calling for you, this whole writing thing? Is this something that's like from a little girl early on, you were just always kind of pumping this stuff out? Because I mean, you pump out content. You are pumping out literature, at a great rate. And that's one of the things that's most appealing to me about you, is the fact that you're just constantly, it's always the next project. You're always, and like with authors, you can see a lot of them, they'll have the one thing they get out there and then they kind of just flatten, or they just they've run out of steam. Even Tim Ferriss, one of the guys who I really admire, got to a point like where he's like, he didn't even know if really he was a writer, because he didn't really know what he was going to write about anymore. Was that like a calling? I mean, has this always been a thing for you, or is it something that evolved over time, or how did you know? When did you know?
I've always been a storyteller, not always a writer. So storytelling has been my passion since I was little. My dad jokes that he's like, we had the most crazy imagination, and we get together and stories just come out. Like, we can play off each other in a heartbeat.
How did that manifest with you guys as when you were little?
Whole bunch of trouble. I am the
Do
kid.
Tell.
I am the kid who comes up with projects. Then I drag my family along. I take prisoners, and they have always done it. Prisoners. I take prisoners. They don't have a choice. Nowadays, like, my dream team is like my brother, my sister-in-law, and probably my parents when they're around. There is no way to say no, because I'm like, so we're going to do this. And they're like, when are we doing this? Because there's no way you're going to tell me no, because I'm just going to force you to come and do this. I started doing storytelling in high school. Like I was doing television when I was in high school. I had a TV access station show at the age of 15, 16. Who gives a teenager a TV show?
Right?
As an adult,
what teenager has the gall to go do that?
I didn't know any better. Nobody said anything. My dad
You're clicking the button.
Thank you. My dad said he wanted to have like Spanish channels. And I said, okay, I'll put it together. I know how. So we just did. There was no rationale behind it. I wasn't trying to think full domination at the time. I just said my dad wanted something. I said, okay. But since that day, like I went to college and I needed to do a shoot. So I dragged my brothers. You know, I'm doing photography. I found a whole stack of old photos and I made my brothers pose the entire time. And you got these two like 8-year-olds and 6-year-olds holding little pipes and stuff. And you're going, my poor brothers have been tortured their whole lives because I keep dragging them along. And I'll come up with stories and scripts and I'll make them act it. I was like, I need you to do this. And they'll be like, okay, I guess. So stories have been my life. My dad teaches in parables. I realized as an adult because he was telling me the story as he was trying to teach me something. I was like, oh my God, Dad's trying to be Jesus. What is going on here? So yes, so stories have always been something huge. It wasn't until I want to say 4 years ago that I finally hit the point in my life that I was miserable. Literally miserable. I have the American dream. I have the great job. I have the car. I have the house, blah, blah, blah. Fill in the blanks. I've done everything parents wanted me to because I always wanted to make them proud. I'm an adult. Like you have the house, you become an adult.
And that included being in the military, did it not?
The military was weird because I joined the military. Nobody thought I was going to make it. They're like, you're a girl. Why are you joining the military? That whole Dominican sexism came out. And because they said it, then I'm going to show you
I can do this.
Yeah, that's the whole Dominican came out. I was like, oh yeah, we can't fail in that one because you don't think I'm going to do it. Let me see this. So yeah, so little girl joins the military. I joined as I'm enlisted. I actually became a sergeant. My family's like, what? I was like, I became a mechanic. My dad's like, you don't even change your oil. I was like, don't get technical. None of that. Let's not get technical. Somebody's going to teach me that. Relax. But it wasn't 4 years ago. I have the job. You have the life, everything you're supposed to do, except that I wasn't being creative and I was miserable. And I hated everything. I was getting to the point that I hated my life. I was hating people. I was hating going to work. You name it. Anytime you deny a part of your soul to follow your dreams, you're going to hate it, regardless how successful you are. I was sitting, I had a spiritual director at the time, and I was sitting like on her, we were sitting on her dining room table, we're going through our sessions. And whatever trigger, I started crying. And the conversation came back to write the book. And I was like, but what if nobody reads it? And she's like, who cares? Write the book. I was like, but what are people going to say? She's like, who cares? Write the book.
You said the conversation came back to write the book. Where did that start?
It became the concept of,
or when did you realize there was a book there that you needed to get out? I guess would be a better way to say that, or ask.
I wanted to go back to being creative and find a way to express that creativity. And doing a film at the time, I was like, I can't afford to do a film. I don't have the time. Any excuse you can think of, it was there. So then she came back into write a book. It doesn't take money to write a book. Why don't you do it?
The course of time of meeting with that spiritual advisor.
Was
this like a tarot card reader type of thing, or what kind of? You say spiritual.
She's actually a Catholic. She was actually a Catholic spiritual director.
A Catholic spiritual director. Okay, cool. I'm not familiar. I don't know what that.
We do have this.
Cool. Yes. No, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. So we went through the process.
Are you Catholic?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I am.
Yeah, that makes sense. Dominican. Hello. Yeah.
I grew up in a Catholic country. Yeah. Yes. Am I truly practicing?
Right. I guess you were raised Catholic. I guess would be a better way to say that, probably.
I practice Catholicism, not as much as everybody wants me to. I'm like, oh.
You do communion and all that?
Mm-hmm. I am. As an adult, I chose to be a Catholic. I chose to go back to the church. It took
My
a while.
wife was raised Catholic as well.
It's a different process. So yes, we came back to the conclusion that I didn't have another excuse not to do it. And that's why I'm in the Bible Belt in Texarkana, which there are not a lot of Catholics down here, which is still a lot of fun. And I decided to do a fiction book based on the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, because I have an obsession with them. And we're going to add witches into that. And all I can think about is like, I'm going to get stoned out of this town. There is no way I can write this book about witches and demons. By the way, I have the devil, and I made the devil name's Jake. And one of the jokes ISIS has is like, there's no way we can compete with the devil when he's sexy as hell. It looks like that. It's like, no wonder we keep losing people. So it is this ongoing criticism and commentary and extremely fun story but still was terrified to put that in the paper. So I was like, I can't put my name in this book. What are people going to say? I'm going to get fired. So that's where DC, which happens to be my middle name, Del Carmen, I kind of said, okay, I need some separation of church and state. Like, I need some separation. I need a buffer because I can't take hate mail. Like, I will cry. DC is a badass bitch. I tell everybody, she's like, send her hate mail. She don't care. Like, don't send it to Sil. Do not direct hate mail to me. Like, do not put sin for that. You stop. Like, that will make me cry. DC, whatever. So it has become my little alter ego, which has become hysterical. I can tell you where in my life I have met you. So if you call me DC, I know you have met the author. And this is the persona you have in mind. The people who know Sil as everybody else, and the two don't cross. It is the craziest thing. I was like, people that know Sil is like, I'm not calling you DC. I'm like, okay. And these ones like, I can't call you Sil. And I'm like, it's not two separate people. You guys all know that. Like, no, she's not calling you that. Like,
no, oh. It's just that the way that it has been entered into their brain and how that's been seared in there. It's like, you can't look at it a different way kind of thing. I totally get it. It makes perfect sense. Now, I've always been fascinated with the writing under an alias name. I've always thought that was just the coolest thing ever, even from like back in like the founding fathers when they did it, and then even Stephen King when I first got into Stephen King as Richard Bachman and the Bachman book series. I don't know if you've ever read those. It's back in the 70s, 80s or whatever, but amazing. And he didn't do a lot of them, but like that, I didn't like Stephen King. I liked Richard Bachman. It was kind of crazy, but I always thought it'd be cool to have a
different person.
Yeah, right. That's just totally. Well, and obviously the Bachman book series, like they weren't horror stories at all. They were just like, it was almost again kind of like yours, where it was like not adolescent, but like urban whatever kind of thing. But good
urban
book
fantasy.
Series. Urban fantasy. There you go. Thank you.
When it comes to pen names, it always depends why you're doing it. And that's usually kind of tricky because I knew that I was going to put my face next to it. I had something that I needed to be something still personal to me. So, which is the reason I used my middle name. If I was going to be a little bit more obscure and I didn't want my face, then I would have picked something a lot more creative. But when you're Dominican and you have 20 different names, I can pick a combination of that. Nobody's going to die for that. So it's kind of fun.
So, were you writing when you talked about doing the skits and stuff with your brothers and everything? Were you writing then, or was it more like kind of the television based and the skit based and more like that, like kids making a production kind of thing? Or were you actually writing stories or any kind of fantasy stuff back then?
It was a lot more script oriented, not actual novels, not actually short stories. So you're looking more of a film, television script than it is anything else. And those are a little bit more description based, guidance based than it is a novel per se. In the novel world, you have so much more freedom to express and create a world that you would in a script, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure. What's one of your fondest memories of growing up in Dominican Republic?
Christmas. Absolutely Christmas. Can I just tell you that?
That's kind of interesting because you think of Christmas as snow and, Christmas trees and all stuff. In Dominican, obviously, it's not like that in December. So tell me about that.
Think of street parties. So when I was growing up, and I don't know if they still do it because it's been forever since I've been to Dominican Republic and Christmas, but I remember each neighborhood blocking off streets and having competitions with each other. And we had DJs in the house and you had these tarps being laid and you have Christmas lights. And for Christmas, you had we had cannons going off and you could hear fireworks. And it was an entire community of people coming together for a huge celebration. And it was a party long. And because of the Catholic country, we have to close. You can't just be having Christmas and people working. So things close for almost 2 weeks. You have celebrations. It's a time that you could be outside and people were playing. And obviously, it's been 30 something years. So it's a much safer time. So the first Christmas we got on this date. So I left in 89. We got here in October of 89. And it's cold and it's snowing. Nobody's celebrating. Nobody's dancing. Who cares? We had a Christmas tree in Dominican Republic. Nobody cares. That's the same. But that whole idea, you're waiting for the fireworks. There's no fireworks. You're going from one house to the other. Nobody does anything. You go home and you're like, what happened to the street decorations? What happened to the party? What happened to the community? And holidays for us, especially Catholic holidays, we did desserts. Each family made something and you went from door to door, almost like Halloween, but it would be a Christian holiday. And people would give you food and they would feed the kids and people would come and visit you. That was very different coming in the States, especially in Massachusetts, because everybody's behind closed door because it's cold. So it is that world of going from, and then we got here right before Halloween. So that was kind of fun, a little weird. Why is everybody dressing up? And you're going door to door. You're like, that's kind of odd. Okay.
Okay, so y'all celebrate Christmas in Dominican Republic, but you did not celebrate Halloween there.
No, we don't have Halloween. I think somebody said they're trying to bring it. I'm like, Dominicans don't have Halloween. What are you talking about? That's not it. That's such an American. None. So Halloween is probably my favorite. It is my favorite holiday because it's so much fun. But you have to compare it to the fact that I grew up in a country where celebrations are huge. Like February is Independence Month, but it's also Carnival Month. So we have a whole month of Carnival going into Dominican Republic, and you got people dressing up, and you got streets, everything.
I didn't know y'all celebrated Carnival as well.
Oof, it's wild. It is wild. It is the one time, and it's right because our independence is the 27th of February. So it all gets together, clumped into this huge celebration. We just need a reason to celebrate, and we're going to make it a party. So coming to the States, it was like, oh, this is different. You know, we take everything like celebrations. We take politics seriously. Growing up, I'm used to having like political campaigns be all out, blow out. People are going to fight. Like they're in the streets and they're having campaigns and you're going to have a fight and people are passionate, regardless of the age. You came to the States and we're having elections like, so who's running? And everybody looked at you like, huh, what? So the last 10 years of elections has been thrilling. Like every Dominican's in heaven. You're like, yes. Like,
this is what it's supposed to feel like, right?
Every day.
This is just normal. Well, dude, I don't know if I can handle that stress for forever. I've handled all I can take.
This has been, and that's what Dominicans are like. We take everything to a fanatic level. So coming to the States where everything's very lukewarm. And people just kind of staying in
particularly that area of the country too. I think it's amazing that you got to have the experiences that you did in the Dominican Republic, because having that kind of a communal, it's so ironic because like here you are in Dominican Republic having what's really the essence of Christmas and what it's all about, like the behind the scenes, like, you know, the essence of it, if you will, to going to Massachusetts and New England where it looks exactly like all the postcards and like what Christmas is supposed to look like. But yet again, having some family from up there, my wife's family from up there, it's like, that is not what it's like up there. There is no sense of community. There is no, everybody's, like you said, got their doors closed. Everybody's, you know, closed off to the world, but again, because it's cold and because of the situation and, you know, whatever, but it is what it is. It's just, it's not that same kind of sense. It's not that same kind of vibe at all, from at least from my perspective.
It was really weird because we moved to a very small Spanish neighborhood and it's called The Point. So everybody knows it. And it was supposed to be the rough part of the city. And growing up there, I kind of joked because I didn't know any better. Like, you know, people's like, you have grass. I'm like, yes, and there's a tree right there too. Thank you. Like, it's not technically the projects. Yes, there's apartment buildings. But it became that interesting community because it was such a small community, a whole bunch of Dominicans. We got Puerto Ricans and a little bit of here. But it felt somewhat like DR, but not to the same extent. Because your parents know other people's parents. So if you're in the street wandering around, they're like, what are you doing? I was like,
micro community.
Yes, very, very micro, very intense. But it was still because it's in Massachusetts, it is in Salem. We didn't have the same essence of a community that you have in Latin America. You know, for Dominican Republic's Christmas, we walk down the churches with like candles lit. You know, that's kind of what Christmas meant. Like you're going to go to mass
that's cool.
at midnight. It was beautiful, and people singing and people preaching. And I remember church being such a huge part of my life because it was the center of the community to a whole different degree. Not the same here. And everything's so segregated. Everybody wants to be such an individual. That's usually one of the things everybody's like, well, do you want to be like everybody? I was like, I'm extremely an individual. I want equal opportunities. I don't want to be like everybody else. Because Dominicans, we're all Dominican. We all look different. You get a little bit more chocolate in your milk and vice versa. But everybody's still Dominican. So we don't have the race issues. Growing up in Dominican Republic, I had no idea what a race was until I got here. And they asked me, what race are you? And I'm like, I don't know, Dominican? Like, what does that mean? Like, we're a nationalist country. So it was interesting to get to the States. It was interesting to switch, migrate, and understand it. And I'm extremely grateful. I joined the military. I wanted to give back to the country everything that it had given to me. Because remember, I grew up in a house that believes in service. So that was natural for me to be like, how can I serve this country for everything that had given to me? Hey, join the military.
And what a great mentality to have, right? Like, that's beautiful. I think that's wonderful.
I'm probably might be one of the few people that had an amazing experience in the military, but I have a dark sense of humor. So it comes to the territory. I had a blast in the military. I don't know anybody else. I thought it was funny. Some things were just odd. My recruiter's like, you're going to be fine. I was like, I am not in shape. Can I tell you? I was the most improved soldier in my platoon. And I was like, when you suck, that's not an achievement. Like, this doesn't mean anything. I had to. Like,
when you're starting from way down here, there ain't nowhere to go but up,
Thank you. They make it sound like, oh my God, you did so well. And I looked at them and was like, you do realize that I really just kind of stuck to this. But my recruiter just said it. He's like, you're going to be fine. What's going to get you is the mind games, because you don't play mind games. My mom was a little evil dictator. So the drill sergeants at the end of basic training said, who had it worse here than at home? Everybody raised their hand but me. And they're like, damn, girl. I was like, you should meet my mother. I'm sorry to inform you. You got nothing on her. They're like, oh, I was like, My brother joined the military as well. Yeah. My brother joined the military. He said the same thing.
This is all you got?
That's pretty much it. I was like, you haven't met my mother. My mother is the person that says, we need to clean the house. And you go like, you have a mouse in your pocket? Because that means me. Like, there's no we. Like, we need to do this. And you're going,
oh, we don't need to do that. Whole lot of you.
And so she makes you feel better. I was like, there's no way. This is me. Why don't you just say, you need to go do this, and save me the whole pretending that I have friends coming over. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. Well, despite how tough she is on you, I'm convinced because of that, this amazing personality and this outlook that you have, I'm pretty sure you would have fun doing just about anything, whether it be basic training or anything no matter how miserable the experience, you'd find a way to make it fun,
Let me give you my horrible army story, because we all have army stories. Every soldier you meet has to have army stories. I am that kid that has that sense of humor, the attitude that just gets in trouble, because I do. And my sergeants just kind of roll their eyes at me. So brand new sergeant got deployed to Iraq. First war, we were there, Operation 1 and 2. We get to Iraq, first night there. We got a convoy from Iraq, from Kuwait. We come down. And because I'm that kid that gets in trouble, so they're like, your detail today is going to be shit burning. And I was like, what does that mean? It means exactly what you think. We're going to go burn some excrements. I was like, we're going to do what? I was like, what you think this is?
Burning. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Literally. We were like, you want me to do what? So they send a whole bunch of us who always think, because we're like a little smart ass. I'm like, I'm going to teach you a lesson. We're in the middle of the field, but we drive through this little town in Ramadi. So it's not like we were hiding. There is tons of equipment. There's noise. We're in the middle. It's like, just avoid the wind. So you got little sticks moving this pile of
be downwind.
So we rotate around, and you're sitting there like, am I seriously burning shit? Like, you got diesel fuel and just lighting this. I was like, where has my life gone? And then we get attacked. So
while you're burning the shit.
Yeah, so there's incoming, and I'm like, I'm the only E5 here, so I'm the only sergeant. We're like, drop the sticks and run. Like, we're brand new here. We don't know what to do. So we all take off like bats out of hell. Like, we let the shit burn. We don't care. We get to the barracks, and my sergeant was like, what you do? I was like, we got attacked. I was like, did you let the flames go? I was like, I don't care if they blow this shit up. I'm not going back. We're not doing this. That's the end of the burning shit detail. By the way, I never got sent back, because they were like, you just let it. I was like, what's the worst that can happen? You blow a whole bunch of shit up? Really? So my sergeants were like, oh my God. I was like, yeah, I never got that detail again. They're like, you suck at this. I was like, oops. I'm not going back.
So we won the war in Iraq despite of DC Gomez.
Thank you.
And all her shit burning.
I was like, oh my God, who gets the details? Yeah, my life in Iraq was a bad episode of MASH, and it was just as funny. You're like, oh, because everybody fills sandbags.
Yeah.
I didn't realize the sandbags were meant to be filled by me. Like, we had this itty bitty shovel that I didn't know where it fit. And today's like, it fits in this bag of sand. I was like, oh, that's why the army gives me this tiny shovel. Got it. Didn't know what it was for.
So that's what that's for.
And they're like, we need to go, barricade things with sandbags.
My goodness.
Like, on purpose? Yes, on purpose. I was like, where do you think the sandbags came from? It's like, oh, hell no. I thought they just came prepared. So about 1,500 sandbags later, I was like, I hate sand. I hate sandbags. I hate it all.
How long were you over there for?
We did 13 months.
No kidding.
Yeah. And my adventures are all the same. I will call home and give my parents an update, and they will be rolling the entire time. And my mom finally said, like, I know when something's bad when you're not cracking jokes, and I know I need to worry. That's when I know something's bad. For the most part, she's like, am I here for your amusement and pleasure? She goes, yes, you are. I was like, you're no support. I gotta go. Like, I gotta go find something to do.
I think that's your calling, here for amusement and support. I think that's your role, you know?
This is it. I'm usually the kid that people just go, oh my God. Because everything in my life I think is funny. So I kind of mentioned that I have a trainer because Dare to Love is coming out, and I want people to take this leap of faith. I have a personal trainer who is freaking amazing. Miss Sandy Space kicks ass, and she looks fabulous, and I hate her right now. So because Dare to Love is coming out, I have decided, hey, I'm going to embrace these principles I'm teaching people and just love my body and be good to it and take care of my temple. And at the time, my goal was I'm going to aim for looking fine. That was it. Aiming for fine. Day 2.5 of this finance. Now we're aiming for survive. I'm just trying not to die. This is it. We have
from
stopped.
Fine to don't die.
This is it. I looked at her yesterday. I was like, it was easy. I was like, so my entire mission has changed, so I don't want to die. She laughed at me. She's like, that's it. It's like, just don't let me die. By the way, I'm going to be the only person going down in flames saying I die by 8-pound weights because this shit is heavy. And she's like, you can do this. So I go back and run into people. It's like, how is your exercise going? I was like, I can't sit. I hate you. Please stop talking to me.
8-pound weights you never knew could be so heavy.
I did not know they could cause so much damage to your self-esteem. Trust me, I've been bruised. I'm taking one for the team. I'm like, and then I struggle so much. He's like, let's change this. I'm like, do you have smaller ones? He's like, here's some 5 pounds. I'm like, oh, my ego, I'm going down. But in the next 6 weeks, she promised I would look fine. I was like, would I be alive? We just get to alive.
Well, I'm a big proponent of starting small and working your way into it because honestly, like what I like to do is think of it as not the next 6 weeks, but really like what's the next 6 years and developing a lifestyle of looking that good. If I can develop the lifestyle that makes me look that good, then I'll be doing all right. But
Nate,
a whole lot easier said than done though, right?
Nate, I got 8 pounds. How small do you want me to start? Come on now, honey. It's 8 pounds. We're small. We're not even going big.
One of the things I say to like people who've never done exercise before, I say just put on your exercise shoes, whatever shoes you wear to go exercise, and go to the gym, but don't go inside. Just go
to the door.
No, just go pull in the parking lot, hang out, look at your phone for 5, whatever, and then leave. And then do that for a week. And then the next week, then go inside, do 1 set of something, whatever, and then leave. And then the next week, go do 2 sets of something and just do, because then it's like, because what you're doing is you're creating the habit. And if I in the first week, if I know I'm just going to the parking lot and looking at my phone, well, I do that anyway. So I can go to the gym parking lot and look at my phone and drive home, feel like I did something. But then eventually, you can't just stop there. But like if you add a little bit, and then go do a couple of sets and now I go for 2 hours sometimes. So it can get out of hand. But all about just, making it. And now it's to the point, what I find interesting is like, if I don't go exercise in the morning, I don't feel right. Like my day is just kind of off. So now it's got to the point where like, I rely on that, kind of like you do with your meditation and some of that. Yeah. So let's talk about, that's my morning routine. And everybody knows I've got my whole 3 habits in 30 minutes and everything, but let's talk about your morning routine because you're an early riser as well. Tell me, number one, when did that start? And then what does it look like?
I've always been a creature of habit as much as I hate it. Like I want to be that like spontaneous girl that's just kind of fun and out there. No. Like I have to have a schedule or else my life just goes, oh, hell back. Me too. Yes. And as much as I do lately, schedule is like, I live by my phone and schedules are important. I actually started meditating 5 years ago. I went to a seminar at the Chopra Center and I loved it so much. I became a certified meditation instructor because I'm that kid. Like I love things. I'm just going to go all out.
That does not surprise me in the slightest. That makes perfect sense.
I'm all in or all out. And if we're going to do this, we're going to just go all out. I went to a perfect health retreat. I started my New Year's that way. Whole
Nice.
7 days, incredible, amazing.
Wow.
And it became with a meditation just to ground myself. I have a very active mind, has my imagination. It doesn't stop. But I wasn't very good at taking care of myself, and I wasn't very good at handling all my busyness and be able to treat myself really well. So meditation helped me just to kind of deal with the stress. It also helped me to let go of all the same thoughts that we have every day. Like we all worry about the same thing. The thoughts we have is the same one 50, 100 million times. With meditation, I got to learn to let it go. Like it's like watching TV, like it comes, click the channel, and just let it go. But I get up during the weeks, usually at 4. During the week, it's like Fridays and on, I'm get up at 5. Yeah, I sleep in. To say that, my furry alarm realizes like, oh, it's 5. We should get up. I'm like, yes, because we have so much to do every day at the crack of dawn. Let's get up. But I will literally.
What does she want you to do at 5 o'clock? Do you like let her go outside or something, or does she have like a routine or thing? She just wants to bother you.
It's a he. He has a routine.
Oh, he. Sorry. Oh, yeah, it makes sense. Constantine, I would imagine.
Constantine. Yeah. He has a routine. We have to get up. We must feed him because God forbid he doesn't get food because he's not going to eat it.
He eats at 5?
He needs to see food in his dish bowl at 5. I just think he's going to eat
it. That's terrible.
So yes, he will get food in his dish bowl. He's looking at me like, I know you're talking about me, so you better be treating me.
I mean, so if you're going to take over the world, I guess you need a good breakfast, right?
You got to start the day ruling the world, and that includes your human. Which, by the way, I get letters that says to Constantine and you're human. I'm like, I have been downgraded to just a human. I don't even have a name. That's my cat. So yeah, take care of the cat, meditate. And usually after that, I do all that busyness that I feel like if I do it during the day, I get stressed out because my mind is just like focused on the millions of things. In the morning, I can just knock it out. I am a lot more fearless in the morning, by the way, because I have no issue sending emails to people like, by the way, would you like to be on my show? Regardless what they say, like I'm fearless in the morning. By 5 o'clock, it's like, I feel like I'm bothering people. I don't want to do that. No, morning, I'm in.
Huh. Mm-hmm. Interesting. I think I'm kind of like that too.
My biggest advice for anybody, for any listener who is ready to take a big step or wants to take a leap or is terrified of making a decision, do it in the morning. This is the part that I realize is amazing for me. Like I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm fearless, probably because I'm half asleep. Like I don't have enough time to rationalize. My mind is not sitting here trying to question, like, that's not a good idea. Like, don't do that. But I did that with one of my mentors. Like I love him, Paul Martinelli. He has an amazing community, one of the biggest gurus when it comes to self-development. And he wrote a book. And I was like, I have a podcast about writers. I should send him a note. Throughout the weeks, I have been dreading this idea. Woke up 4 o'clock in the morning, he's like, I'm just going to send him this message. And I literally typed this up and sent him like a couple of days later. I got a message back. He's like, Paul said yes. And I almost died. I was like, say what? Like, wait, again? So this is my thing is if you're trying to make hard decisions, if you know you want something in your life and you're not sure if you're brave enough or if you can do it early. Your mind is not enough trying to block you. Your mind is not sitting here trying to tell you, that's not going to work out. You're seriously going to bypass all those weird little insecurities. You're half asleep. You're seriously not thinking too much. And I have done a lot of those hard decisions when it comes to my business. Like, hey, do you want to go do something? Do you want to sign up for this anthology?
Click.
During the day, I'm going to be like, no, I don't want to do that. That's crazy. Why would I even want to do that? 4 o'clock in the morning, he was like, yes, I'm doing that. Yes, you can come on my show. No, you can't. Like literally, I'm fearless, but it is the most, and I think this is the easiest way. It is the biggest connection with your soul and what you truly want is that connection with the universe. There is no filter. You're putting things out there and you're looking at things from a whole different perspective than if you're doing it after 10 hours of work, trying to feed the kids, trying to do everything else when you're doing it early and it's just you. So if you're trying to make a huge decision and you're not sure you're going to do it in the morning. Don't think about it. Just find out if it feels right in your soul. What is your stomach telling you? Follow your gut and then take a leap.
So let's talk about the decision that you made to do the podcast and the live feeds and all that. The concept of writing a book, that's like eternal. Like once you put that on paper, like in theory, it's out there and it's like substantive, if you will. And then you've got the exact opposite, this live feed concept where it's like, it's instantaneous and then it's gone. And it's like, it's just kind of, it's like, the complete opposite, really. Where did that come from, and what was the impetus and podcast, all that? Like, how did you get to that level?
Terrifying. Let me just put it out there. Terrifying.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
It is terrifying on a daily basis. I don't care what anybody says. I went to school to be behind the camera. I went to NYU to be a filmmaker. I knew early on in NYU, I was not going to be an actress. I sucked. I was like, oh my God, I look like a robot. Like my mind and my words were not communicating. And this is
poker
weird.
face.
No, I have a very expressionist face. You would think that would come natural. My mom can act her way out of a paper bag when she feels like when she's trying to torture the hell out of us. I could not act to say like that is such a different skill set. And I knew early on, it's like, this is not meant to be. I can do a cameo as long as I don't have to talk. Like give somebody the face. I got the face.
Right.
You want words out of that? Not going to happen. So when I decided to do the podcast, it literally was beginning like last year during this crazy time. My friend said, you need a different form of expression. I don't know why I listen to people. And I thought, it's like, you should do a podcast. I'm that kid that people says, you should do this. And I think about it for a couple of months. Like, that sounds like fun. Let's do a podcast. Had no idea what that meant. Consume my life. I was like, we need to reframe this podcast. But when I started, I've been writing now almost, oh my God, it's going to be 5 years coming up, which is scary. I didn't think about it. But I've been writing for a minute. It's going to be the most beautiful transition, 4 or 5 years. But one of the things I realized when I started out, and you're a brand new author, nobody knows you, nobody cares. Nobody's going to give you a chance. Nobody's interested in your book.
Nobody can find you. You're just such a drop in the ocean.
You are not making a ripple, not even a drop. You don't even make a ripple. You're just there. And I wanted to talk to authors, the podcast Inside the Minds of Authors, almost like inside the author studio. I wanted people, it's fun because one of the questions I get now is like, where do you get your ideas from? And I was like, everywhere. But I wanted to talk
Everything is stolen for what it's worth. No original thought coming over here.
Listen, I benchmarked everything. You'd be surprised what sparks an idea. But I wanted to give authors, whether you were popular, whether you were up and coming, whatever, an opportunity for people to know you. And one of the things I realized after doing way too many panels is people say, let's talk about this book. And nobody has read your book. Nobody knows a concept about your book. And you're rambling on about these books. Nobody cares. So the podcast starts with the authors, or if they can, they're audio reader, narrators. They start there reading a portion. So we all have a common ground.
Cool. Nice.
So I want the listeners and I to be on the same page. So that way we're all talking about the same thing. You decide really early on if you like this or if you hate it, and then you can move on. And then we have a conversations. You hanging out on my couch and I'll ask you some questions, and some conversations lead down a path that you're like, I don't know how we got there. Some other ones I'm the first podcast they have ever done. So it's me like
that's
pulling
always
teeth.
Fun. I love breaking in new ones.
And at the end of it, they're like, that was fun. I was like, what were you expecting? Like torture? So it is that process of giving people an opportunity to have a voice, because I know I didn't know anybody. I didn't know where to start. I wanted people to talk to me. I wanted people to have faith, and it's audio. So that was faith. When I decided to do the Facebook Live, by the way, that was insane. And the very first Facebook Live I did with my mentor, Paul Montanelli, because he opened his platform to the community. He's like,
wow.
He did. He opened 1 million.
Trial by fire.
I know. So he has a lesson called "Doing It Afraid," do it scared. And that's the lesson that changed my life, is like, you don't have to be brave, which is hard for a soldier. You don't have to know everything, but you got to do it. So I did this 10-minute speech and they liked it. They aired it. First time I've been Facebook Live in an entire community. I was like, oh my God, there's 1 million people. What was I thinking? So like, we're taking a faith. And then I was taking one of his courses. It says, go do a Facebook Live. And I'm like, okay, press the button. Do you think I know what the hell I was doing? No, I was just like, but I
That's exactly how I did mine too. It was just like, I didn't even know how to like format it, or even like how it even worked. I had to just like figure it out as I did it.
It became that moment, but it became the moment of, can I use these platforms to give something back? So Facebook Live, I do an Amazon Live, and Amazon Live is almost like the home shopping network. Like, you're technically trying to sell. I realized I suck at the selling. So I just use the platform just to talk. And I talk about the things that I like on Amazon. I was like, if they don't like it, somebody at Amazon is going to be like, girl, you haven't sold a single item. But I have 45 minutes of me chit-chatting. Today we talked about how to write a book. And I use like one of my favorite books. I break down how I wrote my first book, what things to look for.
Is it just you by yourself?
Yeah, it's just me talking to myself.
Wow, nice. That's tough.
Me talking to a camera for 45 minutes has become the norm. I have no idea. Everybody's like, how do you do it? It's like, you stop thinking, you hope somebody's watching, but in the most part, you're pretty sure it's just you talking to yourself.
It's pretty much all my internal dialogue just coming out live.
It's me writing my books, but out loud. I'm just talking about it. That's kind of it. So I have changed my platforms to give inspiration, to give hope, to give a message, to tell people that you're allowed to dream. You're allowed to, hey, this little Dominican that English is not her first language, has 14 books. Baby, what you got? Like, what are you waiting for? Why are you not conquering the world? And that's kind of what I want.
That's awesome. That's it. Well, and it all that oozes out of you. I mean, it like, well, I didn't even say it oozes. It like it radiates out of you. That inspiration. It's so funny. My wife's got a friend that grew up in that area. She's actually from Colombia, technically. Her parents, she's a first year immigrant, or like she was actually. No, she was born in Colombia, but her parents moved from Colombia here, whatever. And she has so many of the same characteristics and personality that you have. And I don't mean to like lump anybody into the same thing, whatever, but like I find that so like not just inspiring, but like it's just fun to like I imagine people want to be around you. Like because of that, yeah, because it's just a spirit of energy that you bring that I think is a big part of what's missing now. Like you see all the animosity and all the garbage going on in the world. It's like, I feel like if we look around and we see people like you doing your thing, it's like that just inspires and motivates people to go out there and do something. And like you said, I just love the idea of just go out there and do something. Like my big thing is like fail your way forward. That's one of the common phrases we use around here, because I'm a colossal failure at most things I try to do. So it's like, but as I fail and I learn through the process, I get better at it. And it's a hell of a lot of fun along the way. It's like, go have the experience, go out there and just put yourself out there, go do. And then you'll be amazed at what happens along the way. And if nothing else, it's a cool story, you know. Like at the end of the day, I gotta, like, you talk about wanting to be a storyteller. That's exactly, again, my whole thing is, the whole theme of this podcast is to share stories, to tell personal experiences that hopefully inspire, motivate, or whatever. But it's to share a story. And like every failure that I've had, every big nightmare, everything that hasn't gone according to plan has been a great story at the end of the day. So even if it's was a failure in real life, if the story kind of makes it not a failure, I don't know. That's something I live by.
I would think Thomas Edison would not consider those failures, but experiments. There's a difference. They're not failures if you're learning. Failures only when you learn nothing from them. I'm all about being curious, and some things will work and some things don't. And it's never failure. You're a life learner. You just take these leaps of faith.
Well, that's what I like. You said the term life learner. I think life learner allows you to not put a negative connotation on the word failure and really be able to just go explore it for all it is, and have that ride, man, have that journey.
It's fun. Sure. It's exciting.
All right, DC, let's talk about your urban fantasy line that is like your bread and butter. I mean, like the urban fantasy stuff is the stuff that you're known for. You got the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Is that the right way to say it? And then you got the devil, and you've got all this thing. So break down the series real briefly, tell everybody what's about, and then like where they can go find it, most importantly.
Okay. So the Intern Diaries is definitely my baby. This is probably what most people know me. This is where most people get familiar and accustomed to my madness. It is based on the 4 horsemen. Yes, I come with disclaimers. It's going to be some insane plots. It's going to be some quirky characters, and I'm going to take you through the ride of your life through the streets of Texarkana. So if you've never been to Texas, come and visit me because you're going to love it. So it is based on the 4 horsemen. So the way the series is broken down is each book I'll introduce you to a different horseman, and it's all through the eyes of Isis Black. So it's in the first person. She is and I have to disclaimer, she is a vet, army vet, but it's not me. Like her backstory is technically my brother's, not mine. So everybody's like, I see her. And when I'm reading this, I hear you. I was like, that's because I write pretty similar. So yes, you can hear me. And it's like, unfortunately, you talk really fast. So I'm reading the books at your speed and I'm missing stuff. I was like, oh my God, that sounds like so much work. Why would you do this to yourself? Books are, first one, you meet death. and she's in the business of transporting souls to their afterlife. So if you happen to be a Christian and you think you're going to hell, she's going to take you to hell. You think it's heaven, she'll take you to heaven. And for Isis, death is a woman. So death comes in the form of whatever you want. If you think death is going to be a skull and a head, that's what you're going to get. So she's the UPS of the soul world. That's what death is. And
Almost
death
like a Grim Reaper of sorts.
to some extent, her business is literally to transport souls. Anything that stops that is the intern's job to find it. She has an intern in every continent. Isis happened to have killed accidentally. Can I actually say accidentally? It didn't happen on purpose. She kind of killed her former intern. So by default, you get the job if they pass. So she gets this job in Texarkana. She's import for the town. She comes in, doesn't have a friend, is a waitress, the whole thing. And Death is like, it ain't like you have anything else going on. You might as well take the job. So she goes on this crazy mad ride because she has one friend and the friend gets kidnapped. So I introduce you to a sane madness. You meet Constantine, my crazy talking cat, who I didn't think he was going to be famous. Really? The cat? He stole the show. I have readers. Constantine has fans. And fans that send him mail. I was like, oh my God. So yes, I am the crazy cat lady because I have this cat in all my books. And I'm like, oh, great. So book 2 is Plague. Plague Unleashed. You get to meet Pestilence, who's deliciously evil. And yes, you're allowed to hate her because everybody else does. She has her own intern. So you get to meet Eugene, who's a crazy scientist, who's adorable. So you met. And every single book, you kind of pick up more people. So if you can imagine, I started out with 7 regulars. You pick up a few more. Book 8, book third one is Forbidden War. I introduce you to War and Katrina, who is badass soldier. Because if you're going to be running the war, what do? You run every army and you look for war. Katrina got in trouble. So she got in this horrible task to try to fix these things because she accidentally killed a world leader. She was supposed to start war and create a world peace. So wars matter to her. So she's undetailed. So you have a little bit of madness of this. So book 3 with Pestilence, you get zombies running down Texarkana, which by the way, I have an awesome shirt that says
zombie shirt. Yeah.
I have one that says I survived the Texarkana zombie apocalypse. And in case, and if you're a writer, here's the fun part is I have a whole bunch of me in the books. I have a whole section, I think in the 3rd book's like, damn it, that stupid girl's still selling the shirts. My brother's like, really? I was like, yeah, it happens. There's
almost like Stan Lee and all the Marvel movies. They got that little bit piece roll. Nice. That's brilliant.
It's really funny because I always have a commentary on the things that I'm doing.
So when you're that character in the book, are you Syl or are you DC?
I'm actually Syl. And you don't even there's this weird reference about the chick selling the t-shirts that won't let this apocalypse go down. Then I have a comment about the one Dominican guy making patelitos. And my brother's like, that's why you put me in the book. I was like, you're cool. I'll get you in there.
That's cool that he noticed it though.
Yes.
That he picked it up. That little minor I love those little hidden gems.
There's side reference that if you're paying attention, if you know I sell t-shirts about the apocalypse, you know exactly that I'm making fun of myself and if I'm making fun of my brother. So you get 3rd one is a cross-star lovers between a vampire and an elf. Why? Because I wanted it. I know. And then we have a whole battle in Texarkana and people like, is there any place in this town you haven't blown up? I was like, I'm coming to that. It happens. So I have book 4 is Famine. So here's your question for the day. If you're in the business of starving people, right, as the horseman, what business will you run?
If I'm in the business of starving people?
Uh-huh.
The food business?
How about the diet business?
The what? Diet business?
So in the books, Famine runs all the diet companies. So not only is he starving, he's super rich. Famine is also very androgynous. Like while Death is everybody, Famine can't figure it out if he's a he or she. He refuses to be human. So Famine is temperamental. Famine is the reason all hell breaks loose in book 5. Huh. So Judgment Day comes out, and I wrote this series so I can have Judgment Day, and it's based on Method Man's Judgment Day song because I laughed at it.
So will this be like the finale of the series then? Judgment
Day is the finale of the Intern Diaries. We have different universe coming out. So yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Everybody transitions to something different. You're going to see. I couldn't stay away. I love my characters so much. So I have different spin-off and different things in the same universe. The Intern Diaries just kind of wraps up. So here's the question for everybody, because COVID hit people very differently. I wrote a book called Judgment Day that released the 27th of March during COVID. Do you know how hard it is to tell people Judgment Day is coming? And they're like, oh, we hate you.
When the
I'm like,
world
no,
just shut down for COVID, for
and
the
everybody's
apocalypse of the
because
whatever.
I'm convinced most people were convinced we were going to turn into zombies, like
Yeah,
airborne virus. We're going to all
there's
die,
all
turn into
kind of
zombies.
nonsense going around then.
Yeah, so it was hard to have. And Judgment Day has a bunch of killer bees, and Texas got hit with a killer bee swamp. And I'm like, God, really? My readers loved it. They're like, were you reminiscing the future? It's like, no, I wrote a book. I was trying to write my series. Stop hating on me.
Right.
So all sorts of fun, all sorts of madness. It is definitely a wild ride. I have 3 novellas that go within the series, so you don't have to read the novellas to love it, but there's just a zany. I tell people my books are PG, my novels, my novellas go a little intense, and I don't know how.
Huh.
So I know they're a little bit much more like one Eugene with Love, which is Pestilence Interns, the novella. His whole mission is he lost a batch of cocaine. And I'm like, why did I do that? Thank you. Like because Pestilence is trying to kill the world. So they have an underground rave club and they were making like ecstasies. And I literally, after I wrote it, I was like, this book's not for kids. Like, what was I thinking, right? This book has so many issues. So if the FBI really watches my computer, I'm in a watch list because I'm like, how did you make cocaine? Sure.
All the different genres that you're covering there.
Think about, I did a whole entire summer of researching guns. It's like, how fast is an AK? And where do I buy guns illegal? Like, how fast can I get a shipment from Russia?
Oh, yeah, you're definitely on some FBI, CIA list for sure. There's no doubt about it. Well, because not only do you have like the urban fantasy, and then you've got the women's lit, and then you've got these the devotionals and all that kind of stuff too. But last but not least, you have a kids book series as well with Charlie. So tell us about that one.
I'm as ADD and OCD as you can imagine.
We're not going to leave any stone unturned in this interview. We're going to make sure we cover all of it.
Everybody, as you can tell, Nate's a little bored because he's like, we're just going to go through everything because DC is here. We're just going to go down this list. I wrote Charlie. I have 2 nephews who are officially my pride and joy. I have no children. The youngest brother, Antonio, has no kids. So Miguel's the only one with the babies. But in time where I wanted my babies not to be 35 and wanted to know what they were good at. Like, I wanted you to be motivated now, and I wanted to empower you now. So Charlie, what's your talent? It is basically a little boy goes to school, comes back crying because they had a talent show and everybody's been there, and he cannot sing, he can't dance, he can't do anything. He's like, I'm useless. So his grandmother takes him for the weekend and actually does a whole bunch of exercise. Like, I want you to write down everything you do. And Sunday they're going to go over it. And they go over this and he's like, I'm really useless. According to this list, I suck. And she goes down to like, can you cook? Can you garden? Can you swim? All the little things that kids take for granted because they don't have to struggle. So it is actually based on the book called Source with Your Strength, which is an adult leadership book. But this one it is an awesome book to say, focus on the things you're good at and forget about the bad because you're wasting your time and you're never going to get good at that. But it's focused on children, whatever age you're in, to help them get to that point to realize they're good at something. I had one of my friends, she bought the book for her daughter, which is amazing. She goes, so my daughter read the book. I'm like, yes. So she comes to her mom and says, so I'm good at cleaning. I have a talent. And she's like, I don't think that's what she meant. I was like, don't bust her bubble.
No, don't be a maid, please.
Yeah. So her mom
Let's
was
set
just
the
like,
bar a little bit higher.
And her child is 8, and she was just looked at her mom like, whatever. But it was exciting.
Now, whatever, that means she'll be an awesome mom. So let's go with that career. I like that career path. That's a good one. That's noble.
Yes. It was fun to see it, but it was fun to have a child start looking at the things that she was doing.
For sure.
From that perspective. Because we know.
But just opening up, like kind of like taking the blinders off a little bit and kind of exposing them to some, I mean, gosh, don't we need more of that? Like at all levels, whether it be like the little kids or the adolescents, or as we get in the high school. Like I was listening to some social media comment about like what we're actually being taught in schools. There's been all this stuff about critical race theory or whatever, but I don't care about any of that. But the one student was making the point, like, why aren't we being taught so many of these types of things? So
we want to go with what's hot. And sometimes we forget the basics as truly what's going to make us special. I know as an adult, I struggle to find my talents. I struggle to find it because if it comes natural, it's not a talent. You're supposed to work 50, 100 million hours to get good at it.
Yeah, you don't automatically recognize it as such, for sure.
it's even harder for kids. It's even harder for them to see how beautiful they are, how special, how talented. And now that I have nephews in the house, I'm adamant. Like, I'm the book fairy. Like, I joke, like my sister-in-law's like, oh God, like this year for Christmas, I had to do something besides books. I'm like, I don't want them to totally hate me. Like, I have to be the cool aunt. Let's be honest. I have my vibe.
I go through that same problem. Like, I give so many books and journals away. It's like, at some point, people are just going to really just start returning them or something like, no, like, all right, no, I don't need a gift from you. Thanks.
So now I had to do something fun. So I had to throw in some toys and then sneak in some books in there. But nice. I want them to be able to, I want them to be able to see themselves how I see them, with that beauty, with that glory that they are. And then it's kind of fun because you're a writer. I have my own company. I'm an indie writer. I can do whatever I want with this platform. Then by God, why can't I put it out there for everybody else? So I was like, Beautiful. We're doing this.
Beautiful.
Take your platform and run with it.
Yeah.
I was like, this is mine. This is what
utilize it for what you can. Yeah. Take advantage. So like one of the things I started doing, cause I've started my little handyman and general contracting business back up. And it's really just to help out, like, friends and family and people that I already have existing relationships with. And I'm there and I'm interacting with their kids. And what I've started doing is giving discounts for artwork. So if the kid gives me a piece of art, they get a discount on the job.
Oh, that is beautiful.
It looks like I'm being this nice guy, dude. I'm being selfish. One of these kids is going to become an artist. And I'm going to have this original piece of artwork from like 20 years ahead of time that nobody knew about. And like, there's my retirement plan right there. It's like one of them's going to pay off for sure. It's only a matter of time.
World domination at its best.
World domination. There it is.
Use your platform. That's what it's there for.
I love it.
I have an opportunity to use the talents that I have, and I joke a lot. I was like, my brother says, you might not have any talent, but you're persistent. I'm like, that's not a compliment, little boy. We need to talk.
But no, I disagree. Yeah. I think persistence is a talent. I think that enduring is something that is missing a lot. Like, I think we need more of that, like learning how to see something through. Like, one of my big things is marathons. And I believe that everybody should run a marathon, not because of being a runner or doing anything like that, because it's doing something that's really, really hard. And then when you're done, you accomplish it. You have something to show. You have a little medal around your neck that says, I saw this through. And like that pays dividends in everything else that you do.
I tell them persistent is my superpower, because I might not do it well, but it's going to get done. It's going to get done well. But it is about taking those platforms and just kind of enjoying it. It is an amazing ride. Life can be a really short, amazing ride, or it can be a long, miserable existence.
So true. And that outlook is what it's all about. Yeah. That outlook is a gift, and it's something that that is a talent.
Aww.
That outlook is definitely a talented, because look, at a lot of people don't have it, like that does not exist in so many people. And I keep going back to it. I think it exudes out of you. So DC, tell everybody where they can find you, your books, and we talked about service, a charity or organization that you're a big fan of that you'd like to share.
So easiest way, if you want to know about my books, you can check out my website. I have one of those. I'm kind of surprised. So it is dcgomez-author.com. Pretty simple.
dcgomez-author.com.
Yep. Like everything else in my life seems to be that I have mastered this title. So you can find me on that. I keep telling everybody now that I have a Patreon account. Don't know what that means, but it's really cool. And I'm doing all these weird stuff because I think it's amazing. So you can check me out on Patreon if you're a Patreon fan. It is, patreon.com/author DC Gomez. See, simple, because I can't get that creative because there's too much to remember. So with books for everybody, easiest way, since I'm an Amazon influencer and I've been pumping this for a while, check me out on Amazon. You can find my Amazon page, which is DC Gomez Author. I have all the books. It was kind of scary because I keep telling people I have 14 books. Then I realized I have other stuff going on. I'm like, oh my God, what happened to my world? So easiest thing. So I am a nonprofit fanatic. So I don't know if you're going to be ready for this. So nonprofit organization that has my soul right now, it is Rotary. I'm actually a Rotarian because, I don't have anything going on in my life. So for anybody who's looking to donate and is looking to make a difference in the world, Rotary is over 100 years old. It started in Chicago. Imagine that. It is one of those organizations that is like one of the best kept secrets that nobody knows about. It's international. We're in every single country. One of the biggest things Rotary has done for the world, it has been eradicating polio. So for the last 40 years and millions of dollars, we have been committed to getting rid of polio. We only have 2 countries in this world that has polio. In the United States, it's something we don't even think about. It's like polio, like there's polio. Yes, there is polio. We're committed. We have partnered up with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to do this. So you're looking to see organization is always rated in the top of the world for their commitment for the universe. And, I'm all about service, and Rotary's mission is service above self. It is all about giving back. It is organizations, it is community leaders, it is people in your community coming together to make a difference. So if you're looking to join an organization, everybody says you have to be invited. If you're in Texarkana or you're in the Texas area, I'm officially inviting you to come to my Rotary Club. There's your invitation. But if you're looking to donate for it, the Rotary Foundation is amazing. It has my heart. I've been a part of it for a couple of years now, and I got invited by accident. They're like, hey, you want to come to Rotary? And I was like, I have no idea what you are, but I love you. I'll come and hang out.
But I'm going to click and accept.
Thank you. It was like really early too. It's like 4:00 in the morning. Somebody sends you an email and you're like, sure. I don't know what the hell you do. I'll show up.
Perfect.
And then they stole my heart, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So that's right now, I can tell you at the top of my list, Rotary is it. And I love what we do. So yeah.
Well, that's amazing. Rotary is a great organization, and you're the first guest to bring them up. This is the question when I wrap up all my interviews, I always ask about a charity organization people are supportive, and you're the first one to bring Rotary up. That's really cool. Very awesome.
I'm glad. We do amazing work. We're the best kept secret, because I'm like,
yeah, best kept secret is a great term. Yeah, because a lot of people hear the term, but most people don't really know what it is that they do or how important they are. You guys are. Yeah, that's amazing.
100 years worldwide, changing lives, touching communities. We have built schools, hospitals, wells, you name it, everywhere. And Rotarians are Rotarians for life. So I'm like, come on now. You need to make a change in the world. Join a Rotary Club.
Awesome. Yeah. And again, start local. It has a huge worldwide and, like you said, international impact, but it also allows you to do something local in your own backyard, right there where you are. Make an impact. Put yourself out there, volunteer. All right. So my last 2 questions that I always ask every guest. I cannot wait to hear your answers to these questions. So if you had a billboard for all the world to see, what would you put on it? And then last but not least, what's your favorite item under $100 that you could not live without, that you use on an everyday basis?
Okay. So billboard, let's be honest, it would be Dare to Dream.
Nice. That's perfectly in your wheelhouse.
That's all it would say. Big letters, Dare to Dream. That would be my billboard. And one item, this is me. I want you to dream, and I want you to believe, and I want you to get your ass out there and do something. That's kind of the rest. That'll be the fine print. Just go out there and do something. One item that I can't live without. Let's see. I have an organizer, like literally old school paper organizer.
Like a Franklin Covey, old school.
It's even cheesier than that, because it's not, you don't even have to go to Franklin. Go to Office Depot and pick one that has pockets, and it has like month by month. I track everything because I have millions of stuff going on. So my organizer travels with me. I got a phone and my purse, organizer, and billfold. Yeah, organizer.
So which one do you use, and is it from Office Max? Where can people find the one that you use? The DC Gomez and Amazon product endorsed organizer. We're going to have to put this on your Amazon thing now.
Absolutely. If Office Depot could sell it on Amazon, I would be selling this, but it's definitely like black cover, doesn't have anything, it has the date, and it's like ring binder, but it has like 18 months, literally, organizer, because
and so it has a binder that you can open and add pages to it and all that kind of stuff? Or it's like a spiral?
18 months. This is my survival guide. I open it up. I was volunteering, because I volunteer all the time at the museum, and one of the volunteer coordinators saw, and she panicked. She's like, holy shit, girl, what you do? I was like,
who are you and why are you here? Undercover boss or something.
She gave me this look. She's like, literally, why are you here? You have all this stuff. I was like, I'm great at managing my time. And I
Well,
won't do
with all
something
that
I
you
don't
have
want
going
to.
on, you've got to be able to juggle it somehow. So, I mean, and to have
Yeah.
something tactile like that you can put your hands on makes sense from your perspective. I feel like that seems to fit right in your wheelhouse for sure.
So that will be it. And probably like like index cards, because I outline all of my books in index cards. So if index cards go out of business, I will cry. Like you will have to come pick me up, because I would be like devastated. Like my world would just fall apart. I just need to buy stocks and index cards and I'll be rich, just for me.
Well, that makes me feel good to have somebody still out there old school like that. Everybody, nowadays we're all living in that digital world, and I'm all about saving the trees, and I don't like, and I'm reducing, reusing, and recycling and all that. But I am from that old school too. Like I like to read paper books. I can't read stuff on a screen. I can't. I'm trying to cope with the digital world as best I can, but like you, I like that hands-on, that paper, that writing with a pencil, even like that just relates to me. So that's beautiful. I think that's a wonderful answer to that question, and not what I expected, to be honest with you. I had no idea where that would come with you, and so I'm really glad that it went that way. That's really cool.
It's the writer in me coming out, like practical writer. Here's like A, B, and C. What can you survive? Give me some index cards, all under like $5. Give me an organizer, maybe under 20.
Yeah, that's cheaper the better. That's how it should be.
I got
exactly how it should be.
Well, Domination at its best.
Well, Sil, thanks so much for your time. We're going to have to do another one of these. We still got lots to cover and lots more to do. And honestly, like I said, like where I'm at in my process, I need some of your energy that I can kind of steal from and kind of help motivate me to push me to my finish line for what I'm trying to do with my book. So I'm going to lean into you both offline and with the show as well, just because I think you've got a lot to offer, both me and my audience. So thank you for all that you're doing.
I'm going to hold you to it. So if you get an email from me that says like, hey, how's the book coming? Don't panic. Like, don't be like, oh God.
That would absolutely make my day. You have no idea. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I need the kick in the pants and the pat on the back at the same time,
So I'm going to put you on my phone. So don't panic, because I do this to everybody. And I set reminders for myself. It's like, email in a month and be like, where's the book? And then people are like, oh shit, you remember. It's like, you told me to. Why is your book not done? So,
yes, no, I love it. Please. Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you for that. Again, what a blessing you are. And that level of service that you're just, it's good stuff, man. We need more people like you out there.
We have a whole bunch of people. We just don't see them, and they're coming every day.
That's true. Well, that's the beauty about it. It's like the other author that I have, that's a huge guy that I admire, Stephen Pressfield, just got to have the stars aligned to have him on the show. And he talked a lot about these exact same things. And one of the things that we talked about was how, because of social media and just really media in general, we get this negative connotation to the world, and there's so much negativity being thrown at us. But if you really take a step back and look at your own personal situation, like your own real day-to-day reality, I can't speak to what's going on in California or Canada or anywhere else in the world, but what does things look like for me in my backyard where I live and how I conduct my day-to-day life and the people that I interact with? And I got to tell you, man, things are looking pretty dang good. And there's so much positive going on out there in my life and like just the immediate surroundings I am in. Like, and in Georgia, dude, if things are bad for you are, come on down here, because they're pretty damn good right here, right now. So, and I'm grateful for it.
Awesome. See, that's usually what you want. And I think love and connections and positivity spreads just as quickly as a pandemic if you let it. You just have to be open to it. You just have to give your heart. I'm extremely blessed that we connected. I'm so grateful that we're doing this. And I want people just to believe it. If this little girl could do it, hell, you guys got this. Life is good. Just take a leap. Wake up early and make those phone calls. That's something. Like send an email at 4 o'clock in the morning.
That morning routine. Awesome. DC, thank you so much. And we'll do this again soon.
Thank you, darling. Have an amazing day.
This episode is brought to you by Atlantic Custom Group. Atlantic Custom Group specializes in the unique and inspiring. For all your home repair and improvement needs, from custom libraries and millwork to tree houses and off-grid and structures, Atlantic Custom Group can do it all. Renovate your kitchen, remodel your basement, or reinvent your entire home with Atlantic Custom Group. Call now for an appointment. 770-827-7591. Atlantic Custom Group, official sponsor of the Extraordinary Podcast.
So you're still here. Wow. Thanks for sticking around. So, what'd you think? What did I miss? What would you like to know more about? Who would you like to hear on the show? If you stuck around this long, maybe you won't mind giving me some feedback. And don't forget to check out the website, extraordinarypodcast.net, for all the latest episodes. And if you enjoyed the show, please take the time to share with your friends, on social media, or with anyone you think who might enjoy it. And last but not least, if you're ready to start living an extraordinary life, check out 8keystogreat.com, where you can craft your free blueprint to renovate your career, home, or lifestyle. The program is free, but you have to do the work to unlock each key. And finally, if you'd like to speak with me directly, you can book a free 30-minute Zoom call directly through my Calendly link on the contacts page. And in the meantime, check out some of the other exciting interviews with ordinary people living extraordinary lives. Thanks for listening, thanks for sharing, and most of all, thanks for just being you. I'm Nate G, and we'll see you next week.